The crack of his fist against my cheek echoed across the empty gas station parking lot. My mother sat in the passenger seat of his truck, staring straight ahead through the windshield, her fingers twisting the tissue in her lap. She didn't turn around. She didn't scream. She just said those 3 words that still haunt me: "Stop being dramatic." But what Derek Walsh didn't know was that the state trooper pulling into pump number 4 had her dash cam running. And she'd seen everything. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Emma Parker, and I'm 28 years old. For the past 5 years, I've worked as a digital forensics analyst for a cybersecurity firm based in Denver. My job is to find what people think they've hidden. Deleted emails, scrubbed hard drives, backdated documents. Digital footprints are like tattoos. You can try to cover them up, but they never really disappear. The irony isn't lost on me that I spent my career uncovering other people's lies while missing the biggest deception happening in my own family. It started 4 months ago when my mother, Janet, was diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's. She was only 55, still young by any measure, but the neurologist, Dr. Sarah Winters, confirmed what we'd all been afraid to acknowledge. The forgotten appointments, the repeated questions, the confusion about dates. Mom had been a 3rd-grade teacher for 30 years, sharp as a tack, able to remember every student's name even decades later. Watching her struggle to recall what she'd eaten for breakfast was devastating. Derek had seemed supportive at first. He'd married my mother 3 years earlier, 2 years after my father died from a sudden heart attack. Dad had left Mom the house in Pinewood Springs, a cozy 3-bedroom ranch where I'd grown up, along with a decent life insurance policy and savings. Mom had been lonely, and Derek was charming. He owned Walsh Auto Center, a small chain of repair shops across the county. He had that confident, take-charge personality that made people trust him. I'd had reservations from the beginning, something about the way his smile never quite reached his eyes, but Mom seemed happy. And after losing Dad, her happiness was all that mattered to me. The first red flag appeared 3 weeks after the diagnosis. I'd driven up from Denver to Pinewood Springs to take Mom to her follow-up appointment with Dr. Winters. When I arrived at the house, Derek was in Dad's old study, my mother sitting beside him at the desk, a pen in her trembling hand. Papers were spread across the mahogany surface, the same desk where Dad used to help me with homework. "What's going on?" I asked from the doorway. Derek looked up, his expression pleasant but his jaw tight. "Just updating some paperwork. Nothing to worry about." I stepped closer, recognizing the letterhead of Mountain View Legal Services. "What kind of paperwork?" "Financial planning." Derek's tone was smooth, practiced. "With your mother's condition, we need to make sure everything's in order." Mom looked up at me, her eyes slightly unfocused. "Derek says it's important, sweetheart." I picked up one of the documents. Power of attorney forms. My stomach dropped. Mom already has healthcare directives. We set those up after Dad died. "These are different," Derek said, standing to his full height. He was 6'2", broad-shouldered from years of manual labor. "These cover financial decisions. Your mother wants me to handle things if she becomes unable to manage her affairs." "When did you discuss this?" "We've been talking about it for weeks," Derek said, though something in his tone felt rehearsed. "Haven't we, Janet?" Mom nodded slowly. "Yes. Weeks." But I knew my mother. Even with her memory issues, there was a difference between genuine recollection and uncertain agreement. This was the latter. I pulled out my phone and took photos of the documents before Derek could object. "I'd like our family attorney to review these before Mom signs anything," I said. Derek's pleasant expression cracked, just slightly. "That's not necessary. Mountain View Legal is perfectly reputable. Then they won't mind waiting a few days." "Emma, you're being paranoid." He moved between me and the desk. "This is what married couples do. We protect each other. And I protect my mother." The tension in that room was thick enough to choke on. Mom looked between us, confused and distressed. Finally, Derek smiled, though it looked more like a wolf baring its teeth. Of course. Family should always look out for each other. He began gathering the papers. We'll wait until you're comfortable. No rush. But there was rush in the way he moved, in the tightness around his eyes. I'd spent years analyzing behavior patterns in digital communications, learning to spot the telltale signs of deception. Derek Walsh was hiding something, and every instinct I had screamed danger. That night, back in my Denver apartment, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my workstation, 3 monitors glowing in the darkness, and did what I do best. I started digging into Derek Walsh's digital life. And what I found made my blood run cold. The first thing I discovered was that Derek had opened 4 business accounts in the past 6 months, all under variations of Walsh Holdings LLC, Mountain Ridge Investments, and 2 others with deliberately bland names designed to avoid attention. I ran the registration addresses through public records databases. 3 of them matched properties my mother owned before she married Derek. The 4th was the house I grew up in. I cross-referenced the account activity with my mother's bank statements, which I still had access to as her designated contact from before the marriage. The pattern emerged like a constellation appearing in a dark sky. Small transfers, never more than $9,000 at a time, moving from Mom's savings account into these new entities. Always just under the $10,000 threshold that would trigger automatic federal reporting requirements. Derek knew exactly what he was doing. Over the next 2 weeks, I built a timeline. I scraped metadata from documents, traced IP addresses, recovered supposedly deleted emails from cached servers. My firm had given me powerful tools for corporate investigations, and I was using every single one of them. Derek had been systematic. He'd started small, testing the waters 6 months ago with a single $5,000 transfer. When nobody noticed, he got bolder. By my calculations, he'd moved nearly $200,000 out of my mother's accounts. But it was worse than simple theft. I found loan applications, all bearing my mother's electronic signature, using her properties as collateral. The loans totaled $350,000. The money had flowed into Derek's business accounts, then dispersed into dozens of smaller payments to suppliers, contractors, and what looked like personal expenses. His auto repair business was drowning in debt, and he was using my mother's assets as a life raft. I needed to confront him, but I also needed more proof. Something concrete that couldn't be explained away as marital financial planning. That's when I decided to visit Walsh Auto Center unannounced. It was a Wednesday afternoon, typically slow for repair shops. The main location sat on Industrial Drive, a sprawling building with 6 garage bays and a customer waiting area that smelled like burnt coffee and motor oil. Derek wasn't there. Instead, I found Ryan Cooper, a mechanic in his early 30s who'd worked for Derek for almost 5 years. We'd met a few times at family gatherings. He was wiping his hands on a greasy rag when he saw me, and his expression immediately shifted to something like relief. "Emma. Thank God. I've been wanting to call you, but I didn't have your number. What's wrong?" Ryan glanced around, making sure we were alone. "Derek's been acting strange. Paranoid. He fired 3 guys last month for asking questions about paychecks bouncing. My last 2 checks had been late." "How late?" "Week and a half. He keeps saying there's a processing issue with the bank, but I talked to Miguel at the East Side location. Same thing's happening to him." Ryan lowered his voice. "Emma, I think the business is going under. Derek took out a massive loan 2 months ago, said it was for expansion, but we haven't seen a dime of improvement. New equipment he promised never showed up. Meanwhile, he's driving a brand new truck and taking trips to Vegas. Do you have any documentation? Pay stubs, emails, anything?" Ryan hesitated, then pulled out his phone. I started keeping records when things got weird. Screenshots of texts where he promised payment, photos of the schedule board showing employees who quit. I figured I might need it for unemployment or something. "Can you send those to me?" He nodded, tapping at his phone. "There's something else. Last week, a woman came by looking for Derek. Said she was from Mountain Legal Associates, needed him to sign some papers. When I told her he wasn't here, she got this look on her face and asked if I knew Janet Parker. Your mom. She wouldn't say what it was about, but she seemed worried. My phone buzzed with Ryan's files. I thanked him and left, my mind racing. Back in my car, I called Mountain View Legal Services, the firm whose letterhead I'd seen on those power of attorney documents. The receptionist was polite but firm. I'm sorry, but we don't have any clients named Derek Walsh or Janet Parker in our system. Can you check again? The documents were dated 3 weeks ago. A pause, the sound of typing. No, ma'am. And I've been here for 6 years. I know our client list pretty well. The documents were fake. Derek had fabricated legal paperwork, complete with forged letterhead, to trick my mother into signing away her financial autonomy. That elevated this from exploitation to fraud. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. I sat in that parking lot for 20 minutes, documenting everything in my encrypted case file. Every transaction, every forged document, every piece of evidence I'd gathered. The digital trail was damning, but I knew from my work that digital evidence alone wouldn't be enough. I needed something that couldn't be disputed, something visceral and undeniable. That's when Derek called my mother's phone. I'd set up monitoring software on her devices weeks ago, with her confused permission, telling her it would help keep track of her medications and appointments. Now I listened as Derek's voice came through, smooth and concerned. Hey sweetheart, I need you to sign something when I get home tonight. Just a formality for the insurance company. What insurance? Mom's voice was small, uncertain. The life insurance policy we talked about. Remember? It's important we get this done today. She didn't remember. I could hear it in the silence that followed. But she'd agree, because she always did now, lost in the fog of her failing memory. I'd run out of time for careful investigation. Derek was accelerating, and my mother was running out of assets to plunder. I had to act. I drove straight to Pinewood Springs that evening, my laptop bag loaded with printed evidence and backup drives. The 2-hour journey from Denver felt like seconds, my mind cycling through strategies and scenarios. By the time I pulled into my mother's driveway, it was nearly 8 o'clock and the house was dark except for the flickering blue glow of the television in the living room. Mom answered the door in her bathrobe, her hair unbrushed. She looked smaller than I remembered, more fragile. Emma? I wasn't expecting you. I need to talk to you about Derek. Her expression clouded with confusion and something else. Fear, maybe. Or shame. He's not here. He had to run to the shop. Some emergency with a customer's car. I guided her to the couch and sat beside her, taking her hands in mine. They were cold despite the warmth of the house. Mom, I need you to listen very carefully. Derek has been taking money from your accounts. A lot of money. I have proof. She pulled her hands away, shaking her head. No. Derek wouldn't do that. He loves me. I know this is hard to hear, but look at these. I opened my laptop, showing her the bank statements I'd compiled, the transfers highlighted in yellow. See these transactions? They're all going to companies Derek controls. He's been moving your money without your knowledge. Mom stared at the screen, her eyes moving across the numbers but not really seeing them. I don't understand all this computer stuff. Derek handles the finances now. It's easier that way. That's what he wants you to think. Mom, he forged legal documents. The power of attorney papers you almost signed? They weren't from a real law firm. I checked. You're wrong. Her voice rose, panic creeping in. Derek takes care of me. After your father died, I was so lost, and Derek was there. He wouldn't hurt me. I know you want to believe that. You never liked him. From the very beginning, you made that clear. This is just you trying to ruin my happiness." The words stung because there was a grain of truth in them. I had never warmed to Derek, had always maintained a polite distance. But this wasn't about my feelings. "Mom, please. Just come stay with me in Denver for a few days. Let me show all of this to an attorney. If I'm wrong, if there's some explanation, then I'll apologize. But if I'm right, we need to protect you." The front door opened before she could answer. Derek walked in carrying takeout bags, his expression shifting from surprise to calculation when he saw me and the laptop. "Emma. This is unexpected. We need to talk about the money you've been stealing from my mother." He set the bags down slowly, his eyes moving to the computer screen. "That's a serious accusation. Backed by serious evidence. 200,000 in unauthorized transfers. 350,000 in fraudulent loans. All using my mother's assets while her memory is failing. That's elder abuse, Derek. It's a felony." His jaw tightened, and I watched him make a decision. The mask of concerned husband fell away, replaced by something colder. "Your mother has given me full authority over her financial affairs. What we do with our money is none of your business. Except she never legally gave you that authority. The documents were fake. Prove it." "I can. And I will." I stood, closing my laptop. "Mom's coming with me tonight." "No, she's not." Derek moved between me and the door. "Janet is my wife. She's staying here." "Mom, get your things. We're leaving." But my mother just sat there, tears streaming down her face, her hands twisting in her lap. "I don't know what to do. I don't understand what's happening." "That's exactly the state he wants you in," I said. "Confused. Dependent. Too uncertain to question anything." Derek took a step closer to me. "You need to leave. Now. Not without her. Emma, go home. You're upsetting your mother." I looked at Mom, hoping to see some spark of recognition, some acknowledgement that she understood the danger. But she just looked between us, lost in the fog of her disease and Derek's manipulation. I realized then that I couldn't force her to come with me. She had to choose, and in her current state, she couldn't make that choice clearly. "Fine," I said. "But this isn't over. I'm filing a report with Adult Protective Services tomorrow. They'll investigate everything." Derek's smile was all teeth. "Good luck with that. The county coordinator is Kyle Morrison. We go way back. Play poker every Thursday." Of course they did. Derek had spent years building connections in this town, creating a network of people who owed him favors or shared his interests. I was an outsider now, living 2 hours away in Denver, making accusations against a respected local businessman. The realization of how isolated my mother had become, how carefully Derek had positioned himself, hit me like a physical blow. I left that night knowing I'd lost the first battle. But I wasn't done fighting. Back in my apartment, I worked until dawn, compiling everything into a comprehensive report. Bank records, forged documents, witness statements from Ryan Cooper. I sent copies to 3 different attorneys in Denver, looking for someone who specialized in elder abuse cases. 2 responded within hours, both saying the evidence was compelling but warned that cases like this were difficult when the victim was married to the perpetrator and showed signs of cognitive decline. The 3rd attorney, Robert Chin, called me directly. "Miss Parker, your documentation is exceptional. But I need to be honest with you. With your mother still living with Derek and presumably defending him, this becomes a he said she said situation. We need something undeniable. Something that shows his true character in a way that can't be explained away or defended." "Like what?" "Like catching him in an act of violence. Or intimidation. Something on camera that strips away the facade he's built." I didn't know then that within 48 hours, I'd get exactly that. And it would happen at a gas station on State Route 7, with my mother telling me to stop being dramatic while a state trooper's dash cam captured every second of Derek Walsh revealing who he really was. The call came from Barbara Reynolds, my mother's closest friend and neighbor. Her voice was shaking when I answered. Emma, I just saw Derek loading suitcases into his truck. Your mother's with him. I tried to talk to her, ask where they were going, but Derek said it was a last-minute trip to visit his sister in Wyoming. I didn't even know he had a sister. He doesn't. I'd already researched Derek's family during my investigation. He was an only child, both parents deceased. When did they leave? About 15 minutes ago. Emma, your mother looked so confused. She wasn't even dressed properly for travel, just sweatpants and that old cardigan. And Derek seemed rushed, almost frantic. I was already grabbing my keys. Which direction did they head? North on Route 7. I knew that highway. It ran straight north through the mountains, eventually connecting to Interstate 25. If Derek was actually fleeing to Wyoming, he'd need to take that route. But more likely, he was moving my mother somewhere I couldn't easily find her while he finalized whatever endgame he'd planned. My hands were steady as I started my car, but my heart was hammering against my ribs. I'd sent the evidence package to Robert Chin yesterday. Derek must have somehow found out, must have realized the walls were closing in. Route 7 was nearly empty at 10 in the morning on a Thursday. I pushed my sedan to 15 over the speed limit, scanning ahead for Derek's truck. I'd memorized his license plate weeks ago, another small piece of data in my growing file. 20 miles outside Pinewood Springs, I spotted it at the Route 7 fuel stop, a 24-hour station that serviced the sparse traffic between towns. Derek's truck was parked at the far pump. Through the windows, I could see my mother in the passenger seat, her head leaning against the glass. Derek was inside the convenience store. I pulled in quickly, parking directly behind his truck so he couldn't leave without confronting me. I went to the passenger side and tapped on the window. Mom looked up, her eyes taking a moment to focus. She rolled down the window, and I could smell the staleness of her clothes, see the dried toothpaste at the corner of her mouth. She hadn't showered. Derek hadn't given her time. Mom, what's going on? Where are you going? Derek says we're visiting family. He says I need a change of scenery. What family? Mom, Derek doesn't have any family in Wyoming. She blinked, processing this information with painful slowness. He said his sister. He said she wants to meet me. He's lying to you. There is no sister. Mom, he's trying to take you away because I reported him to the authorities. He's stolen from you, and now he's running. The confusion on her face deepened into something closer to distress. No. Derek wouldn't lie to me. You're the one who's always lying about him, always trying to make me think bad things. I have proof, Mom. Bank statements, forged documents, everything. He's been using your memory problems to rob you blind. Stop it. Her voice cracked. Just stop. I don't want to hear this anymore. That's when Derek emerged from the store, a coffee in one hand and his phone in the other. He froze when he saw me, his expression cycling through surprise, anger, and then settling into something dangerous. He strode over, placing himself between me and the truck. What the hell are you doing here? Taking my mother home. You're not going anywhere with her. Janet is my wife. We're taking a trip. That's not illegal. Kidnapping someone with dementia after stealing their assets is absolutely illegal. I've already contacted Adult Protective Services and filed a police report. You're done, Derek. His face flushed red. You stupid little girl. You have no idea what you've started. I started nothing. You did this when you decided my mother was an easy target. She was drowning in that house, lost without your father, and I saved her. I gave her purpose, companionship. And this is how you repay me? By making up lies and turning her against me? The bank records aren't lies. The forged documents aren't lies. The loan applications with her signature that she never actually signed, those aren't lies either. Derek's hand shot out and grabbed my wrist, his grip crushing. You're going to get in your car and drive back to Denver. You're going to drop this ridiculous investigation and let us live our lives. Because if you don't, I will make your mother's remaining years a living hell. Do you understand me? I tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. Let go of me. Not until you agree to back off. I'm not backing off. You're a thief and a fraud, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows it. That's when he shoved me. Hard. I stumbled backward, my hip connecting with the concrete barrier at the edge of the parking lot. Pain shot through my side. Derek advanced, his finger jabbing toward my face. You want to destroy me? Fine. But I'll take your mother down with me. Every penny I borrowed was with her permission. Every document signed willingly. When they investigate, they'll find a woman with dementia who can't remember what she agreed to. I'll paint her as incompetent, and she'll end up in a state facility while lawyers fight over her assets for years. You son of a, his hand came up fast. The slap caught me across the cheek with enough force to snap my head to the side. My vision blurred, stars exploding behind my eyes. I heard my mother's voice from inside the truck, distant and weak. Stop being dramatic, Emma. Just stop crying and leave us alone. Those words hurt worse than the slap. But then I heard something else. The crunch of gravel under boots. A woman's voice, clear and authoritative. Sir, step away from her. Now. I looked up to see a Colorado State Patrol trooper standing 10 feet away, her hand resting on her service weapon. She was in her mid-40s, her uniform crisp despite the morning cold, her expression absolutely unreadable. Her patrol car was parked at Pump 4, the dash cam visible through the windshield, its small red light blinking steadily. She'd seen everything. And she'd recorded it all. Derek's face went pale. Officer, this is just a family dispute. My stepdaughter has been harassing us. I watched you assault her. That's not a family dispute, that's a crime. The trooper's eyes moved to me. Ma'am, are you injured? My cheek throbbed and my hip screamed, but I could stand. I'm okay. I'm Trooper Lisa Martinez. I need you to step over here, please. She gestured me toward her patrol car, her eyes never leaving Derek. Sir, put your hands where I can see them. Derek's hands went up slowly, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscles jumping beneath his skin. Trooper Martinez moved with practiced efficiency, positioning herself so she could watch both Derek and me simultaneously. She spoke into her radio, calling for backup and requesting an ambulance. That won't be necessary, Derek said, his voice taking on that smooth, reasonable tone I'd heard him use countless times. Officer, my stepdaughter has mental health issues. She's been stalking us, making wild accusations. I was simply trying to defend myself and my wife. Your wife is the elderly woman in the truck who just told her daughter to stop crying after you struck her. Martinez's voice was flat, unimpressed. The same wife who appears disoriented and improperly dressed for travel. My wife has Alzheimer's. She gets confused. I'm sure she does. Which makes your current situation even more interesting. Martinez looked at me. Ma'am, what's your name? Emma Parker. That's my mother, Janet Parker, in the truck. Derek Walsh married her 3 years ago and has been systematically stealing her assets while her memory deteriorates. I have documentation of everything. Bank fraud, forged legal documents, fraudulent loans. I filed a report yesterday with Adult Protective Services and a civil attorney. I think he's trying to flee with her before the investigation starts. Derek laughed, but it sounded hollow. This is insane. Officer, you can't possibly believe this nonsense. I'm a respected businessman in Pinewood Springs. I own Walsh Auto Center. You can call Sheriff Bradley, he'll vouch for me. I'm sure he will, Martinez said. But I don't work for the county, Mr. Walsh. I work for the state. And what I just witnessed on my dash cam is assault and battery. Everything else you two are talking about, that's for investigators to sort out. But you put your hands on this woman, and that I saw with my own eyes. A second patrol car arrived within minutes, followed by an ambulance. The EMTs checked me over while Martinez spoke with her fellow trooper, a younger officer named Rodriguez. I could see them reviewing the dash cam footage on a tablet, their expressions growing more serious. Derek stood beside his truck, his confidence visibly crumbling as he realized the scope of what the camera had captured. Mom had gotten out of the truck finally, looking around in bewilderment. What's happening? Why are there police here? I went to her, wrapping my arm around her shoulders. It's okay, Mom. Everything's going to be okay now. Did Derek do something wrong? He said we were just taking a trip. Where were you going, Mom? Did Derek tell you? She frowned, trying to remember. Wyoming. No, wait. Montana? I don't know. He said it would be good for me. That we needed to get away from all the stress you were causing. Martinez approached us, her expression softening slightly. Mrs. Parker, I'm Trooper Martinez. I need to ask you some questions. Do you understand where you are right now? Mom looked around at the gas station, the patrol cars, the flashing lights. Route 7. The fuel stop. We've stopped here before. Do you know what day it is? A long pause. Thursday? It is Thursday. That's good. Mrs. Parker, did you agree to take this trip today? Derek said we should go. He said Emma was trying to cause trouble, that we needed to leave before she made things worse. Did you pack your own suitcase? Mom's face crumpled in confusion. I don't remember packing. Did I pack? Martinez looked at me, and I saw understanding in her eyes. She'd worked enough cases to recognize the signs. Mr. Walsh, I'm detaining you for assault. You'll be transported to the county jail for processing. Given the additional allegations Miss Parker has raised regarding elder abuse and fraud, I'm also requesting an emergency protective order preventing you from contact with Mrs. Parker pending investigation. Derek's composure finally shattered. You can't do this. Janet, tell them. Tell them you want to stay with me. Mom looked at him, then at me, her eyes filling with tears. I don't know what I want. I don't understand what's happening. That's exactly the problem, Martinez said. Cuff him, Rodriguez. As they put Derek in handcuffs, he turned to me with pure venom in his eyes. I'll fight this. I have lawyers. I have connections. You'll never prove anything. I already have, I said quietly. Every transaction is documented. Every forged signature has metadata showing when and where it was created. Every email you thought you deleted, I recovered. You're not dealing with my confused mother anymore, Derek. You're dealing with someone who knows how to follow a digital trail straight to the truth. They put him in the patrol car, and I watched it drive away with a sense of relief so profound my legs nearly buckled. Martinez stayed with us, helping me get Mom into my car. She gave me her card and the case number for the assault. The dash cam footage will be preserved as evidence, she said. I've also flagged this case for the state's financial crimes unit. They'll want to see your documentation. From what you've described, this goes beyond simple domestic assault. Thank you. If you hadn't pulled in when you did. I've been doing this job for 20 years, Martinez said. I've seen a lot of men like Derek Walsh. They think small-town connections make them bulletproof. But badges and cameras don't care about poker buddies or business partnerships. Evidence is evidence. The investigation moved quickly after that. Robert Chen took the case pro bono, calling it one of the clearest examples of elder financial abuse he'd seen in his career. The forensic accountant he brought in, Marcus Thompson, traced every stolen dollar through Derek's web of shell companies. Adult Protective Services moved Mom into a temporary care facility where she could be evaluated and protected while the legal proceedings unfolded. Derek's bail was set high, and when he couldn't make it, his business partner Kyle Morrison suddenly stopped returning his calls. The poker buddies disappeared. Sheriff Bradley recused himself from anything involving the case. Derek Walsh, the respected businessman, became Derek Walsh the accused felon, and his network of protection evaporated like morning fog. The trial took 4 months. The dash cam footage played in court, showing Derek's violence in stark clarity. But it was the financial evidence that sealed his fate. $200,000 in unauthorized transfers. $350,000 in fraudulent loans. Forged documents bearing my mother's signature created from files on Derek's own computer, complete with metadata proving he'd fabricated them. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Elder abuse, fraud, assault, forgery. The judge sentenced him to 12 years in state prison with no possibility of parole for 6. All of my mother's assets were ordered returned, and Derek's business holdings were liquidated to cover restitution and legal fees. Mom moved in with me in Denver. Her condition progressed, but slowly, and with proper care and medication. She had good days mixed with the difficult ones. On her good days, she remembered what Derek had done. On the difficult days, I reminded her gently that she was safe now. 6 months after the sentencing, we drove back to Pinewood Springs together. The house had been thoroughly cleaned, every trace of Derek removed. Mom walked through the rooms slowly, touching the furniture Dad had picked out, looking at the photos on the walls from before Derek had entered our lives. "Your father would be proud of you," she said, standing in the kitchen where she'd cooked family dinners for decades. "The way you fought for me. The way you didn't give up even when I couldn't see what was happening. Dad taught me to look for the truth. You taught me to document everything." She smiled, one of her clear, lucid smiles that reminded me of who she'd been before the disease. I taught 3rd graders to keep journals and write down their observations. I never imagined my daughter would use those lessons to save my life. We sold the house eventually. The memories there were too mixed, too painful. But we kept the cottage up in the mountains, the small A-frame where my parents had spent their anniversary weekends. That's where we go now on Mom's good days, sitting on the porch and watching the sunset paint the peaks gold and crimson. People ask me sometimes if I regret confronting Derek that day at the gas station. If I wish I'd handled it differently, maybe gone through official channels without putting myself at risk. But the truth is, if Trooper Martinez hadn't pulled into that gas station at exactly that moment, if her dash cam hadn't been running, Derek might have gotten away with everything. Sometimes justice needs a witness. Sometimes it needs a camera. And sometimes it just needs someone willing to stand up and say, "This is wrong, and I'm not walking away." Derek sends letters from prison occasionally. They're forwarded to Robert Chen, who files them unopened. There's nothing Derek could say now that matters. The evidence spoke louder than any words ever could. The paper trail, the digital footprints, the video footage, they told a story Derek couldn't talk his way out of. My mother's memory continues to fade, stealing more of her past each day. But she remembers feeling safe now. She remembers that someone fought for her. And on her very best days, she remembers that cold morning at a gas station on Route 7, when a state trooper pulled in for coffee and changed everything. The crack of Derek's hand against my face still echoes sometimes in my nightmares. But louder than that sound is the memory of Trooper Martinez's voice, calm and absolute. "Sir, step away from her. Now." Those words marked the moment when the balance of power shifted. When the predator realized he'd been caught. When justice, documented and witnessed, became inevitable. Some people believe you need wealth or connections to fight back against those who abuse power. But I learned differently. You need evidence. You need courage. You need someone who believes you. And sometimes, you just need a dash cam running at exactly the right moment. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.